Hi there. Do you experience back pain when you meditate? Well, in this video, I'm going to teach you a basic principle that will help you find more comfort while sitting upright and help you develop more postural awareness to support your meditation practice. Hi, my name is Seth Dellinger. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner and I've had a daily meditation practice for many years. I love to help people who feel stuck in their movement or their mindset, their relationships. And if you'd like to find out how I can help you individually, you can book a free call with me. There's a link under this video. So if you find it difficult to meditate because of back pain, there are several different factors that could be at play. But the most common issue is the position of your spine, above all in the area of your low back. You may have already seen videos on YouTube telling you that you should avoid having your back too rounded or too arched while meditating. The easiest way to fix this issue is by having the proper support underneath you so that your sitting position doesn't create either of those kinds of spinal compression. You will want to experiment to find what works best for you, but if you are sitting on the ground, generally speaking, you will want to lift your pelvis so that your hip joints are at the level or higher than your knees. You can do this with the help of meditation bench or cushion, either in a kneeling or cross-legged position. You can also meditate while sitting in a chair with your feet firmly planted on the floor. But once you've figured out how to set yourself up comfortably, what's especially valuable is to go one step further and to learn how to recognize the quality of your upright posture throughout the duration of your meditation. As I explained in depth in a previous video, I think it's a mistake to think of meditating as sitting still. Simply put, while you are meditating, you are breathing and you are holding yourself upright, both of which involve dynamic muscular engagement. The reason most people sit on supports to meditate has to do with the position of the pelvis and how it impacts the length of your spine. Your next step is to understand how small shifts in the position of your pelvis that may take place while you are meditating can impact your posture. This will help you to notice when those changes take place so that you can make small adjustments to maintain your comfort. In a separate video, I'll include some thoughts for those of you who like to sit cross-legged. But for now, let's look at the position of the pelvis while sitting in a chair, because it's probably the simplest situation to explain the general principle we're interested in today, which applies to any sitting position. If we take a look at the bottom of the pelvis, we see the ischial tuberosities. I'll just call them the sitting bones. Your sitting bones have a long surface, as you can see. Even though we all have plenty of flesh between these bones and the surface we sit on, it's essential to feel our skeletal support when we sit, because when it's organized inefficiently, we have no choice but to make up for it by using additional muscular efforts, which lead to strain and discomfort and restrict the breathing. You could also feel the length of your own sitting bones. One way to do that is to just carefully sit on your hands, and you can do one sitting bone at a time. You just put your hand underneath there and just move around a little bit so that you can feel the surface underneath. And when you take your hand out, you might find that on that side of the pelvis, you have a little bit of a clearer connection to the ground. And you can do this on one side and then do it on the other. Or another way to do it is actually to stand and put one foot on the chair, and then you can reach underneath and you can touch the length of the sitting bone from the pubic bone in front all the way to the back. So the key question is, when you're sitting, which part of your sitting bones do you sit on? If you pay attention, you'll notice that there is one particular place on the bottom of your pelvis that lifts you the highest. So as I'm moving forward and back here over the pelvis, you can just see that it changes the shape of the spine. And if you look at the head here, you'll see that there's certain places as I move the pelvis forward and back where This guy is a little taller and then a little shorter. So that place where you want to sit, it's a little further forward than where most people sit. So now I'm going to show you a simple way to test this out for yourself. Start by sitting towards the front edge of a chair with a firm surface. Have your feet firmly placed on the floor. Then begin to roll your pelvis forward and back very slowly. As you roll backwards, you can gently lower your head and soften your chest so that your back rounds. And then straighten up again as you roll forward, allowing your belly to expand and lifting your chest. Once the movement is comfortable, slow it down even more and make it even smaller. Now, instead of rounding and arching your spine, keep your eyes on the horizon, but notice there is one particular place where you are the tallest. When you move in front or behind that place, you will feel your head moving down away from the ceiling. If you pause in one of those positions and just breathe, you will probably notice that your breathing is somewhat restricted. When you find the place on your pelvis where you are the tallest, you should find that this is the easiest place to breathe. This small experiment that you've just done comes in handy while you are meditating if you are feeling discomfort in your low back, because most likely you have rolled a little bit in front or behind the point on the bottom of your pelvis that lifts you the highest. In that moment, simply roll forward and back like this, a very small amount, listening for that feeling of lift and the relaxation of your diaphragm to rediscover a comfortable sitting posture. Now let's add one additional piece of information that will give you another way to orient yourself for better posture when you meditate. Going back to this movement of rolling the pelvis, another way to think of it is that you are rolling towards and away from your knees. This is true if your knees are directly in front of you or if they are out to the side. Your femurs, the bones of the upper leg, are the longest bones in your body. The top of your leg, the ball of the femur, fits into the bottom of your pelvis in the hip joints, which are closer to the center line than many people realize, in the area of your groin. When you roll your pelvis forward and back, you are also changing the position of your hip joints. So try the movement again, but try to imagine the position of your hip joints and notice when it feels like they are behind your spine and when they are in front of your spine. If you feel that your hip joints are in front of your spine, then you are definitely sitting towards the back of your pelvis. As you come forward again, imagine that your hip joints are reaching back behind your spine. As you've already discovered, it's also possible to roll too far forward on your pelvis and create too much of an arch in your low back. But what you'll notice is that when you find the place where you sit the highest on your pelvis, your hip joints will be just slightly behind your spine. Now try one more thing. In your most comfortable position, without moving, simply imagine that your hip joints are behind your spine and then in front of your spine. Go back and forth, and you might be able to sense that just changing the image of how your hip joints and spine relate will subtly change your sitting posture and your comfort. And one final thing to notice is what's happening in front. When you find your most comfortable position, what do you feel in your belly? When you are meditating, there is no reason for you to contract your abdominal muscles, although many people maintain a contraction here all the time as a habit. If you contract your belly intentionally, even the tiniest bit, you'll see that it makes you want to roll your pelvis backwards, unless you counteract that tendency with increased contraction in your low back. But why would you want to do that? Instead of fighting yourself in this way, If you go back to rolling your pelvis forward and back, you'll notice that every time you go forward, your belly has the chance to lengthen. In fact, you can think of expanding your belly as the way you initiate the movement. Another way to think of the forward movement is that you are reaching your pubic bone down and away from your head. Thinking of your belly and your pubic bone will help you engage the muscles inside your pelvis and your upper legs, as if you were using your legs to pull your pelvis towards your knees. At the same time, you can imagine that your sitting bones are almost pushing the seat of your chair back behind you. These ways of thinking of the movement are very different from imagining that you are arching your low back. Of course, rolling your pelvis forward will produce an arching movement in your spine, but if that arching is the primary idea you use to organize the movement, you'll notice that you engage very differently. It's easy to overdo it with your back muscles in that situation because it's very inefficient to use a part of your body high above the chair to try to move yourself over its surface. So again, think of reaching your pubic bone down and away from your head with a full belly as your hip joints move behind the spine and the sitting bones are pushing the seat under you back behind you. Okay, so you can see that throughout this video, we've been looking at this one simple movement of rolling the pelvis forward and back, but there are actually quite a number of important details to consider. The value in noticing these things is that each one of them can be directly related to a physical sensation that you can learn how to pay attention to, giving you many more ways to check in with yourself if you are having trouble finding comfort while you're meditating. So let's review. First of all, good posture depends on the position of your pelvis. You don't want to be too far forward or too far back. That place that you're looking for somewhere in between is the place where you're going to feel the tallest and your breath will be the easiest. Another detail is to think of your hip joints as being slightly behind your spine and to look for a position where your belly can feel relaxed. Okay, so I hope those ideas are helpful to you beyond just finding the right support that you need underneath you to sit in a comfortable position for meditation. Just understanding that little adjustment forward and back over the pelvis is a way to reestablish your posture if at any point you feel that you are sinking or compressing or you are uncomfortable. In an upcoming video, I'm going to go into a little more detail for those of you who like to sit cross-legged, and I'm also going to address issues of sitting posture having to do with the arms, the upper spine, and head. But that's it for today. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And again, if you'd like my individual help, just look for the link below the video and get in touch. Take care, everyone.